Welcome to Fellowship Lesson 3.2. First thing you want to do is open your program's agenda, and then you want to click into this Do Now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to modify our coin flipper from last class, so it includes a function. So remember, this is our last do now, and we are going to find the function flipcoin in JavaScript. We're going to replace some code in our click handlers with a function call to flipcoin in the correct places. Okay, hint, you're going to need to call it twice. Go ahead and pause, take a stab at it, and then come back in 2 or 3 minutes for the review. Okay, so hopefully you paused and attempted the do now. So our instructions are to replace some code in our in your click handler with the function call to flip coin in the correct places. So if we scroll down here, we've got this function written. Now, what can we replace so that we're calling that function? Now, if we look here, we can simplify our conditional results by calling our function. So if we get rid of that here, okay. So if random coin is less than 0.5, flip coin, heads image. Else, take this out and we're going to flip coin. Else. What am I missing? Okay, let's try it. There we go, heads or tails. We click and we're now calling this function here. All right, that is the do now. Let's go back to our lesson. Okay. So today, that is the wrong deck. Coders will use functions to break long sections of code into smaller, easier to understand pieces. Our vocabulary's function, return parameters, and argument. Okay, let's review some of what we learned in our last lesson. So in order to declare a function, we use the function keyword, give it a name, a parameter, and then we can add a return statement. We add curly braces around the return statement. Included in the return statement is an argument. You only need to declare a function once by using the function keyword, and the parameter that you create, parameters here, that you create in the function declaration can be whatever you want, but it's best practice to make it something that makes sense. The return statement stops the function and returns a value. That's it. Return always appears in a function, never outside of a function. A function will stop after the return statement, and return can be used to return a value. So an argument is the actual info that you pass through a function call, and it's always between the parentheses of a function call. Parameter is a placeholder. It's between the parentheses when you declare a function. An argument is an actual value used, and it's between the parentheses when you call a function. Okay, so what if we could write our code so that each task in the code is clearly labeled and easy to understand? here we've got two things happening. So we're displaying the greeting with the user's name, and we are hiding the input and the button. Now, it's obvious to anyone looking at this click handler what it's going to do, but it doesn't work unless we write down what greet user and hide form are supposed to do. And so to do that, we need to write a function declaration. Okay. So now we've got the code that does the same thing, but we're using functions to make it more clear what's going on. And then you can guess what functions do just by looking at their name. You don't need to read each and every line of code in order to figure out what it does. Take a look at this. See what's happening in this code. So you'll notice that the two click handlers here have very similar code. And we're going to see today how we can use functions to reduce the amount of duplication in our code and make it more concise and easy to understand. So we reduce duplication through using functions. So if we click in here, we can see, so if we just do what we're used to doing, that doesn't really help us because we have all of this duplication, right? So let's take another, if we look to see what all of these things have in common, right? Pretty similar code. We can reduce duplication by creating a function. This function declaration now has the word color between its parentheses, and we're using color instead of a specific color string in the function body. Then we're calling the function, and we put a specific value in between the parentheses of the function call. Multiple parameters can also help you simplify your code. So you notice here we've got two parameters, color 1 and color 2. And this first line, or this second line, has when we're going to replace the CSS of the body is going to have a background color that matches color 1. And then the CSS of the body is going to have the text color that matches the color 2 parameter. So if we call this function, use the change color, and we have orange and blue, what is that going to do? We're going to have our orange and blue in our arguments. So notice color 1 is going to have a background color of orange, and color 2 means that we're going to have a text color of blue. Right, so when we call this, background color is orange, text is blue, color 1, color 2. Order matters, right? They have a specific, each argument has a specific purpose, so it's important to call them in the right order. So it changes if we change the order. In this case, we now have a background color of blue and a text color of orange because, again, color 1, color 2, color 1 corresponded to background color and color 2 corresponded to the text color. Take a second and look at this. What does this function call evaluate to? In other words, what value will be stored in response? So we're going to see OMG, Bruno, Joliz, exclamation point. Okay, so let's click into our guided practice. So our instructions are to read the starter code and understand what it does so far. Okay, let's take a look. All right, so we have our global value variables here. Now, if we look at our functions, okay, we're trying to make these different buttons on our calculator work, okay? So we've got a function for addition. subtraction, multiplication, division, and then we need to try and make them work. So function for addition was completed for us. We've got X and Y, and then we want to return X plus Y. So if we look at subtraction, we've got the function subtract. We've got X and Y. We need to return X minus Y. Okay. Now see, for the independent practice, you're going to continue updating and making these functions work. So you can use the two examples of addition and subtraction to continue on with the independent practice activity. Okay, so again, independent practice, you can click into that. Addition is there. You can add what we completed with subtraction, continue on. Okay, take a 10-minute break. Go ahead and pause where you are now. And then you can come back in 10 minutes and continue on. Okay, we've got an Alumni Spotlight. This is Yongji Chen. During college, I found many summer opportunities through Code Nation Alumni newsletter. Now that I have graduated, I am working as a software engineer at OpenFin, where Code Nation volunteer used to work. It was thanks to being part of Code Nation community and the resources they provided that I am where I am now. That could be you. All right, it's time for our project. So we started rock, paper, scissors in the last lesson. Okay, by the end of this 40-minute work time, your project will need 3 functions that check whether a player has gotten 3 in a row. So if we click into our project, you're going to open up Glitch. And then last time, if we look at the README, what we've already done in day 1 is declare a variable that keeps track of the current player and set it equal to a string of either X or O. Okay. And then declare a variable that keeps track of the total number of turns taken and sets it equal to 0. Declare a variable of a Boolean type that will signal whether or not the game has ended and set it equal to false. Declare a function called with 2 parameters that removes the button of the corresponding ID and changes the text of the div that is the title ID to the player variable. Declare a function with 0 parameters that will change the current player to X or O depending on the current player. Decide where to call this function. So we've got this here, right? What we need to do next for day 2 is declare a function with 3 parameters of the title IDs and return if the value of each of the title IDs are equal to the current player. This function will check if the player has won. Declare a function that will call the function above on all the vertical combinations of tiles. Declare a function that will call the function above on all the horizontal combinations of tiles, and declare a function check diagonal wins that will call the function above on all of the diagonal combinations. Okay, that's day 2. Once you've completed that, again, you're going to submit your glitch link to your project submission form for your program. If you get stuck, use your reference table, use Google. You can ask a friend for help. You can also ask your teachers for help. Use Slack, use the student support line, use email. Okay, so again, once you've completed those work time goals for day 2, you're going to export your project to GitHub and submit your project to the project submission form. And then think about if you met your work goals for the day, what you learned, what was challenging. And again, reach out if you need help. Okay, thank you for watching lesson 3.2 for fellowship 1. And if you need to, you can continue on to view lesson 3.3.